Okay, bipolar disorders. Here we've got a group of disorders, all with the same characteristics, but slight differences from one another. The basic commonalities here is that you have alternating states of mood, where people are bouncing between manic episodes, or times of elevated mood, and depressive episodes where they have depressed mood. Um, Now, the basic differences we have here are bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 disorder is sort of what we consider classic bipolar, if you've heard of it before. And I mean, this is something that gets used in everyday speech, often inappropriately, but that refers to someone who experiences full-blown episodes of mania, um, and then full-blown episodes of depressive mood as well. So if you look at both of the disorders together, bipolar 2 I'll describe here in just a second. This is a rarer set of disorders than our depressive disorders. So you've got somewhere between 1 and 3% of adults worldwide have bipolar at any given time, 4% across the lifespan. And this is one that does not have any difference in the rate of diagnosis between genders. So men and women seem to get diagnosed at equal rates, but those with at the lowest levels of income tend to develop this at higher rates than those who have more wealth. So that's an interesting difference. So the manic episodes, if you want like the specific diagnostic criteria, um, this is when for at least a week or more, a person displays an inflated sense of self, of their abilities, high levels of energy, for most of the day, right? So this is not. Sometimes you'll hear people being called bipolar because they switch rapidly between moods, right? You talk to them in the morning and they're having a great day and they're on top of the world, and then you talk to them in the afternoon and they're a mess, and then you talk to them at the end of the day and they're on top of the world again. That is not someone with bipolar disorder, generally speaking. Usually these are much longer episodes, lasting at least a few days, up to and as much as several weeks, before then reversing the polarity and moving into the opposite phase of mood. So they will have overly high levels of self-esteem. They won't sleep much during manic episodes. They will feel like their thoughts are moving very quickly. Um, they have a hard time focusing on any one thing for a very long time, and tend to engage in more risky behavior than they normally would. Um, Now, sometimes this is distressing to the person themselves. Whoa, I am out of control. What am I doing? Um, Other times, the distress and dysfunction is in the people around them. Right there are those who genuinely enjoy their manic phases, and as a result, bipolar is one of these disorders that we actually have a hard time getting people to comply with medicine regimens, because first of all, the medication that we use for bipolar disorder, which for a lot of folks is lithium salts. It's a one of these treatments that was discovered sort of accidentally, and seems to be the effects of the medication are limited to folks with bipolar disorder. Meaning, if you take lithium salts and you have bipolar, it will help stabilize your mood. If you don't have bipolar disorder, and you take lithium salts, it won't do anything. Well, in terms of affecting your mood, you'll still have the negative side effects which lithium salts have, which is another reason why people have a hard time sticking with it, right? So it's like, okay, so you want me to take this thing that'll make me nauseated and may cause my weight to fluctuate and all sorts of other problems, and also I don't get my manic phases, which I actually kind of like. It's a hard sell, right? Um, so that's manic phases. Uh, to go along with this, the distinction between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 disorder is the presence of what we call hypomanic states, rather than full manic states. Now, hypomania is mildly elevated mood and energy rather than extremely elevated, right? So somebody suffering from bipolar 2 will go through depressive phases in very much the same way that people with bipolar 1 will. But then instead of shifting into a manic phase where they're like, I'm gonna eat the world, instead they'll be like, I'm doing all right. Let's go. Let's do this, right? Where they're more elevated than normal, but it's not full blown mania. Seems sort of like a ripoff, right? You get the depressive states full force, but not the manic states. Anyways, that's bipolar 2. You have to have had at least one major depressive episode, and then you have to have a history of hypomanic episodes, but no manic episodes, right? So if you have manic episodes, even if you alternate between manic episodes and hypomanic episodes, then that's bipolar 1, right? If you've got the manic episodes at all, it's bipolar 1. And then you also have cyclothymic disorder, which we group together with the bipolar disorders because once again, it is all about the switching between states. It is milder, generally speaking, in its extremities than bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, where you get times of mild depression followed by times of hypomania. But in order for it to be cyclothymic, it has to last for a couple of years or more. Interestingly, cyclothymic disorder can then develop into either bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. So these are things that do change and evolve over time. And it can happen in either direction, right? This is true of all treatment. Sometimes folks just get better on their own, right? Somebody, and even with quite severe psychological disorders, sometimes people just get better. And we don't know why. They just did, and they do, and that's fine, and good for them. And then other folks need treatment in order to get better. But the same thing can happen in the other direction too, right? You have some of the symptoms of a disorder, and that gets worse just because it does sometimes. And we've still got a lot of study to do to figure out what exactly are the trigger mechanisms that send us in either direction. And a lot of this is really difficult to nail down because humans are a collection of chaotic systems, and so nailing down the impact of any one factor when there are dozens of factors in play can be really, really difficult. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to say about our bipolar disorders. Once again, leaving the causes to you to read over in your textbooks rather than going over them here in the videos. Okay, all the best to everybody. Sorry it took me. Sorry I'm a little late posting these, but they're there for you. So we'll see you next week.